Hello everybody, welcome to another SonicLAB. Today we're taking a look at the new Monoment Bass from Softube, which is a specifically bass designed software instrument. In fact, if I show you the keyboard here, it only goes up as far as the F above C3. It's also only a mono instrument as well, because it's really designed for bass. It's not really designed for chords at all. In fact, you can't play chords on it. The reason it's limited really is because it's been put together by a guy called Tobias Mengerson, who is a sound designer and synth collector. And what he's done is he's taken a lot of sort of classic synths and he's put them through specific recording paths as stereo samples to give them that, so they've all got this kind of sort of almost record-ready sound. There's plenty of bottom end in there, and it does sound like a very beefy and girthy instrument. We open the preset collection. We've got the ability to save presets. We'll flip through a few. There's guys by Madison Mars, CRZ, various different preset people, and you can favourite them. It's actually quite basic, the preset browser. You can't assign program changes to these presets. In fact, you can't change presets with program changes, which is a little bit of a limitation. Certainly if you're reviewing things, you want to flip through sounds, it's all very mousy. I guess you probably wouldn't be changing bass that often. So let's listen to a couple of sounds. And not massively wowy, but the thing is with bass sounds, you're probably not going to want them to be like really in your face and signature because they'll get in the way. Try a few more of these. They've all got a good bottom end quotient to them, they really do. It's a sort of classic, I guess that's like a 90s house bass almost. Let's see what else we got. Some of them are incredibly low, but it's the sort of bass that you can still hear, you know what I mean? It sort of feels like quality bass, not just implied bass. That's nice, that's got a bit of a stereo vibe to it. Your classic wubs. Let's see, I don't know how many presets there are in here. There's some really nice sub bass things. So, and Bernie sort of distorted stuff. Well, that sounds like Beat It, doesn't it? In fact, it's called Beat It. It's got that kind of slight, I think that was a synclavier. Bit more of your classic synth bass. That's, I guess this is probably using just the LFO. And got a ticky and a sort of subby thing. One thing that's quite cool, actually, if we just come back and close up, take my head out of the way, we've got the ability to, between the source, we can have the source to just be a straight blend here, or we can have it a crossover. So what will happen is the blend will be kind of variant on the frequency, so you can have more bottom end or less bottom end depending on where you are on the keyboard, so the blend can vary there. That's quite an interesting concept, and certainly something that I haven't seen very often in basses before. So looking at the structure here, as you see, we've got, I'll take my face out of the way, we've got two sources for samples, an A and a B layer. We've got the same set of samples. These are all multi-sampled samples done by Tobias via like these various different record paths to give them the sort of optimum bass sound. We can blend between them using the A and B blend mix. We can detune layer B by an octave. We can detune them a little bit, and we can add a little bit of analog dirt as well. Actually, let me see if I can get the analog dirt to show up, because So if I just change presets here, I could show you a bit about what the noise does. I'll take the filter right down, and I'll take the aging right up, and you can start to hear. We'll take some of these effects off as well, then we'll just be able to hear the straight. I'll leave the put the multi-band up, that's easier to hear. So now we've got all these different noises. They're just sort of spectral noises, or just, and you can add little bits of these depending on how you have the aging setting dialed in. So if we go straight up again, take the filter down, because I'm routing this minus the filter, but we can also add these little attacks, which is kind of cool. They're not pitched, they're just like transient addition. So if we, again, quite subtle, but they add some nice sort of extra. It's almost like designing rhythm sounds, you know, like drum sounds. It feels a bit like the Nord drum or something, you know, where you take these little attack portions, and it adds some nice vibe to the overall sound. Let's just change the preset here. We can have a look at the filter. So the filter, oh, that's probably not all that useful filtering. Let's there we go. We've got 24 dB, 12 dB and 6 dB, and it's quite, get some quite nice screamy resonance there. Ooh, that's interesting. Let's see if we take some of this drive off. That's probably try some more presets. Yeah, let's get some more. Quite a nice character to it. We can also add some modulation from the LFO. Get some quite rhythmic stuff happening. That's quite useful for, because we can tempo sync that, and that can all work nicely. Feel it sounds all right, actually. It's not bad. And then we've got obviously the filter cut off. We've got a little envelope in there that we could use as well. Now let's just swap another preset, and we can take a look at the effects. Oh no, we'll go into the source, because we got this also this other punch parameter. Obviously we've got Portamento. This is like a one knob control of probably quite a lot of parameters, and I guess that's a lot of amplitude, but it really adds some real thwack, and we can add some release as well to that. Quite nice there. And what's the blend of it? We get some quite decent effects there. Let's have a look now. We go back to effects actually, because we've got the ability to add this drive. So we've got a modern drive, which is quite extreme at an extreme setting, but you can dial it back just to add in a bit of extra burn. There's also a transistor one, which is less extreme. And if we come back and turn the release down, and we've also got this ambient control as well, which is, we can set these different sort of reverbs around the bass, which is a bit unusual. You don't normally see that, but I guess, you know, modern productions where things are a lot more minimal, reverb on bass is a thing, and it can sound really good and quite vibey. So it's nice to have that in there. Then we've got an EQ, which is just like a sort of top and a bottom EQ, and a multi-band compressor, which can really even out the sound very nicely. And then finally we've got this spatialization, which if I turn it off, we can, it's like a mid-side thing. We can remove the center or mono the actual bass in the middle, so we get a bit of stereo spread, but the main sort of thrust of the lower frequency is in the middle. And I guess, you know, that comes back to the days when we used to cut records back in those days. I mean, I guess that's coming back in again, where you would want the bass in mono because the cutting head could be damaged by excessive movement in the stereo field with very low frequencies. So it's quite nice to be able to do that now because, you know, with digital delivery, we don't really need to worry about that so much. One thing I will say is you can see all of these parameters. There's no sort of right-click MIDI learn, and the same with presets here. There's no way of assigning program changes to any of these presets. It's all very mousy. I mean, that's something they could fix very easily. In fact, I'm using this with the NKS complete control keyboard, and it's not NKS ready either. And it'd be nice to see that, because with something like this, it's quite nice to get some hands-on and sort of tweak this stuff. Even though it's designed to be simple, you know, always in software, there's no real excuse why you shouldn't want to map that stuff. And I think NKS is quite simple, or at least MIDI learn would make a lot of sense. So the other thing is, obviously, if we're in live, we can map it using MIDI mapping, you know, and access all of these different parameters. But the only problem is for me with that is that's only per instance. So you can't kind of make a MIDI map that would then work every time you use Monument. So these are the sort of things that, well, I guess we've come to expect. And it may be, you know, they just need, you know, with a version 2 or just a little iteration, it would fix all of that stuff and everything would be fine. I'd like to see that because it really makes sense. One thing I will say, if I get my head out of the way, I've got this instance here, which is quite an interesting sound. And what I've actually done is I've added these LFOs here, which are Max for Live LFOs. They're by a chap called, if I just hit the info button, I switch it on. What I'm doing is I'm modulating the source mix, which I really like the sound of. So I'm just using one LFO to modulate the, and then I'm using another LFO to modulate the cutoff frequency. So I'm sort of adding this functionality by using these Max for Live LFOs. These are just free downloads. If you go to find Robert Henk LFO 2 for Ableton Live, it's just a free download, and it's really handy for just kind of adding this additional modulation. But what it does illustrate is, wouldn't it be nice if we could do that? The reason I'm doing this is because I don't have hands-on control of those very easily, and this way it enables me to add sort of more synthesis to this synth. So overall, the Monument Bass actually sounds good. You know, I mean, okay, I'm not sure all the presets are going to be to everybody's liking, but what I did find is when you put it into something, it really occupies that lower frequency. You're not having to work very hard at all to make a bass line that occupies the bass. And so a lot of that work is done for you. True, it's perhaps not as extreme as many things, you know, other dedicated, the non-dedicated synths, but I quite like the fact that this punch and this sort of the effects can really sort of enhance and deliver a bit more sound. I would have liked to see program changes, and I really would like to see more MIDI mapping capabilities, because I think that would really open it up. But overall, it actually does sound very good. I would try it out. I don't know if there's a free demo, but it's not terribly expensive. Let's see how much it costs. If we go to the Softube website, we can see it's $99 at the moment, but you can try it. So I suggest, you know, try it out because it's a free demo, and then if it really, I think you might find that it's more useful than it maybe seems on paper, if that makes sense. So that was Monument Bass. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.